Councillors, I'll now declare the meeting open and I'll call for apologies and leaves of absence. We do have one apology from Councillor Jeff Budd, who is away on leave and out of the country. And we have Councillor Sharpen on the screen, who is joining the meeting via Zoom. Could I have somebody move that we accept that leave of absence, please? Councillor Mears, seconded Councillor Brooke. All those in favour say aye. Carried. Councillors, we move on to item 2 in the agenda, and we have community consultation. We have a number of speakers tonight, and I'm going to call each of those speakers to the podium. So when I call your name, if you could please come and state the item that you're speaking to. I'll call firstly on Mr. Jim Booth. If you can state the item that you're speaking to.
Yes, Mr Mayor, Jim Booth on item 7.2, structure plans. Thank you very much for your time, Mr Mayor, councillors and staff. My name is Jim Booth, I know most of you. I come from Kalala, been there about 25 years, nearly a local. My parents purchased a property at Altona at Katingal around 20 years ago when they retired from the larger property out at Manila. And my father said to me at the time, one day this will be developed. He didn't live to see it. I hope I do. My brother now owns it. He lives in France, so a bit hard to be here, but he knows I'm doing this on his behalf tonight. I also work with him under a power of attorney. The first thing I wanted to do was to thank the council staff. You might not hear that very often, but I do. Particularly Andrew Spicer and Mitch Galogly and some of the other staff. Mr GM, please listen. They have done an excellent job in consultation and also in keeping us informed, had a look at the land, and I've read through the council business papers and the annexures that you've got in front of you, which sums up the position very well. And I note from those the need for growth management and orderly development, and that the size of our property at 40 hectares could help you basically double the size of the village of Katingal. I also understand that Katingal is quite landlocked by the Coburn River, the New England Highway and the railway line, and we happen to have this dirty great parcel, as Mr Spicer said to me when I rang him a couple of years ago. I was waiting for someone to ring me about that. Now, I don't think this is going to be highly contentious. All we're asking is that this goes on public exhibition. I speak in favour of that. We do know that the sewerage plant is a problem and that you need to find money. I realise that we are the smallest of the parcels being discussed tonight, but for people who wish to be able to afford a block in an area like Katingal, quite a vital one. And given the current growth of Katingal, if you drive around the streets there, you will see the massive number of new houses. I don't know that we've got 5 years to wait, but if I have to talk about that, I'll come back at a later date. And if I've got 30 seconds, can I just add, as a past president of the Tamworth West Rotary Club, our gratitude from that club for the Tamworth Regional Entertainment Centre, and particularly to Robert Ellsworthy, who I think is finishing either last week or this week. I'm sure, Mr Ross, you know of his excellent work. He has been nothing but an absolute pleasure to work with, has done everything to make sure that car show has been an excellent presentation, and the venue, he's done anything we want, even at the last minute. So I take this opportunity through you, Mr Mayor and councillors, to thank Robert Ellsworthy very much. Do I say now happy to ask any questions, or is that your job? Answer any questions if you want. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Jim, and we'll move on to the next speaker on the list, Mr Peter Gill.
Item 7.2, the draft Tamworth Regional Structure Plans, specifically about the athletics fields. Mayor, councillors, staff and visitors. Round 3 for me on the athletics fields. These are a valuable piece of public land, being the only available vacant land within the 80k town limits that has a double entry, two-way access. The propensity to attempt packaging the sale of this land in other guises and combinations to provide a weighted decision attempts to avoid scrutiny, transparency and accountability, in my view. I believe the exhibition should be split into 3 separate elements, that each element is considered on its own true merits.
Mr Gill, you're addressing the Mayor, please.
And rather than being split, rather than being combined where it becomes a decision, well, 2 out of 3 are good, 1 out of 3 is not so good. What discussions have been held and with whom regarding the development potential sale of this land, noting that the proposal seems oriented to a major accommodation centre comprising 5 separate buildings on 10 hectares. Will this be significantly detrimental to the other providers in the region? What options were considered? The report doesn't indicate any. As a resident ratepayer, it is my view that mistakes with 2 previous VICs not be repeated. The land be more devoted to public amenity than proposed and better configured to fit with the VIC and ambience of a country town. More flow through caravan access directly from Gunniganoo Road and perhaps a public rotunda and stage and a playground for visitors. May I suggest co-locating the Performing Arts Centre, sharing the VIC as a reception, which would provide a significant performing arts and conference precinct. I have no issue with some accommodation space, perhaps a few stories high on, say, a third of that land. However, I don't know the reasoning behind the proposal and where we're at. The 3-minute limit curtails my ability to further articulate my thoughts in this forum. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Gill. We now have another speaker who, on 7.2, Mr Warwick Lindsay.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Our Deputy Mayor's not here. Does he tune into this? Or our councillors, our General Manager, Senior Council staff. I'm here just to speak on the draft Tamworth Regional Structural Plan. About 3 years ago, I came up with a concept for some land that's out there, which is owned by Crestwick Company. That's 2 brothers and their families that own the land. I had a vision for it as a medical precinct. And if you think about it, Tamworth is a little bit lopsided. Everything's over here, nothing out there, and then you've got 70,000 houses that are going to be built. And this, so I spoke to council staff who invited me to a meeting with the senior staff. Andrew Spicer was there, and Andrew conducted the meeting. I've got to tell you right now, it was a very, very constructive meeting. I walked away, I knew I didn't have any plans there, but I knew which way I was going. And 2 of the major things was water and sewage, which was fine. We took that on board. I developed a plan, an overall plan. There's 92 acres there. It's a big piece of land. And I developed this plan, and last year I got a phone call from Mr. Mitch Galogally. We're having a workshop. Would you like to come? And I said, when is it? And I'm not name dropping, I'm going to the daughters in France. And he said, next Thursday. I said, yeah, I'm there. So I went along to this meeting. It was a workshop in Darling Street. And if all the knockers, the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and all, it doesn't happen. And secret handshakes. But it was a very, very constructive meeting. So there's something that happened at that meeting, and I want to bring it to this council, and I want you to take it on board. That was Sam Lodsey. The meeting had started, was talking around, and then Sam Lodsey stood up, and he said, get this right. Listen and construct on this, because this draft plan is not for next week, not for the end of the year, not for a couple of years, it's forever, and it's set in concrete. So I would like to pass that on, because Sam was right. And after that, in the meeting settled down, and away we went, and some very constructive arguments came up. It was good. Sam attacked me. That was great. I really enjoyed that, and said that I was doubling up on something that he had in the heated pool. We better get on with that as well. And I said, well, that's okay, Sam, but you're not a golfer, I am. And I said, hitting golf balls with a computer is not practicing. Oh, that's right.
Mr. Lindsay, I might get you to bring your...
So, yes. So, thank you, Mayor. So, look, my main thing tonight is to pass on that message, and I do constructively hope, and I know you will, take it seriously on board. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Lindsay. The final speaker tonight on item 10.1 is Penny Milson. Penny, can I get you to come to the... Oh, you come equipped.
So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that it is NAIDOC Week and take the opportunity to pay my respect to the contribution of Aboriginal people, in particular our elders. It's very special. I speak in support of item 10.1, Indian Miner Pest Bird Control Program. So good evening, councillors and executive. Tamworth Birdwatchers is an incorporated not-for-profit which was formed in 1998. We monitor the diversity and abundance of local bird life and promote the conservation of native birds. So for over 15 years, Tamworth Birdwatchers have been working to control the expansion of the Indian miner by selling traps like this one at cost price and raising awareness about the detrimental impact these feral birds have on our environment. The Indian miner is highly aggressive and poses a significant threat to our region's natural biodiversity. Its presence around al fresco cafes in Peel Street is increasingly threatening public amenity. In recent days, I've spoken with the owners of Barraba Caravan Park, who purchased 2 of our traps 12 months ago, due to the impact that the Indian miner were having on the appeal of their tourist park and for their desire for Barraba to be the birdwatcher's paradise. And as a Barraba girl, it's something I'd like to see, not threatened. So importantly, the Indian miner is outbreeding the natives, and they have the ability to displace native birds by raiding hollows, destroying eggs, and killing chicks. So our backyard nesting box had previously offered a breeding site for an eastern rosella pair, but it was invaded by the Indian miner in spring 2021 with the rosella chicks eaten alive. we've been unable to have a nesting box since. In the 23-24 financial year, Tamworth Birdwatchers sold 118 traps like this one, up from 21 traps 3 years prior. This six-fold increase says to us that more of our citizens are aware, more people are concerned, and unfortunately, this feral bird population is increasing in our region. Our volunteer-run club desperately needs council support to get this problem under control. So while it's relatively easy to trap pest birds, the euthanasia for many people has always been a sticking point. Using carbon dioxide or cervical dislocation is legal, however, it requires a significant financial outlay, for example, a CO2 bottle, which is what we have at home, or a skill that most of us do not possess. So the solution that we have brought to council in the form of a pest bird aviary is viable. The program operating in the Dubbo region since 2022 has eliminated, I hope you're sitting down, 6,300 Indian miners using 4 aviary traps and 23 backyard traps. The Tamworth aviary will be designed to go one better. Not only will it lure pest birds like starling and Indian miner in its vicinity, it will serve as a drop-off point for people to deposit their trapped birds contained within their trap, conveyed into a one-way chute leading into the aviary. We've had some excellent discussions with Tamworth Community Men's Shed. They're willing to construct a purpose-built aviary using unwanted metal scraps where possible, ensuring the price paid by council is cost-effective. Councillors, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but bird tourism is big business and becoming more so. Let's boost regional prosperity well into the future by protecting our natural resources. I feel this is an opportunity we can't afford to pass up. Let's continue to ensure the Tamworth region is a livable community. Thank you very much for your time, and I'd like to thank the Office of Gina Vareka for preparing the report and being supportive of our idea of an aviary trap.
Thank you, Penny, for the presentation. Councillors, will now move on in the business paper. We have no further community consultation speakers tonight. We'll go to item 3, minutes from the previous meeting. Could I have somebody move their true and correct record, please? Councillor Mears, seconded Councillor Erimpi. Any questions on those minutes? Any comments? I'll put forward the recommendation. They're true and correct, and we accept them. All those in favour say aye, raising their hands. Carried unanimously. We'll move on to the next point, point 4, disclosure of interest. Do we have any disclosures of interest tonight? Councillor North.
Yes, Mr Mayor, just like to disclose interest with regard to item 7.2. I have a significant land holding in the Tamworth Regional Sports and Entertainment Precinct that will be in the structural plans tonight. So I'll declare a significant but non-pecuniary interest, and I'll excuse myself from the room.
Thank you. Any further disclosures of interest? There being no further disclosures of interest, we'll move on to item 5, Merrill Minute. Now, there is no Merrill Minute. We'll move on to item 6, notice of motions, delegates report from a recent visit to Gore. Councillor Sharpen, who's online, can you hear me? I can hear you. You wish to move that, Councillor Sharpen?
I do.
Councillor Sutherland will second that. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Sharpen?
Yeah, just briefly, Mr Mayor. First of all, thank you for allowing me to attend remotely, and a very warm Mulashani from here in Zambia. As you're very aware, we had a very successful trip over to Gore. The 50th Gore Tussock's Country Music Festival went off without a hitch, and we will see the fruits of that trip coming back in January, with quite a big number of people coming across to show their talents and support our Country Music Week in January.
Thanks, Councillor Sharpen. Anyone wish to speak opposing anything in that report? Anyone wish to speak, make comment on that report? Councillor Impey?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd like to acknowledge the report and also acknowledge the importance of sister city relationships. We have sister city relationships in New Zealand, China, the US and Japan. As we know, the world is increasingly becoming a very small place with the ease in which travel is possible. And Councillor Sharpen is evidence of that. He's overseas, and indeed Councillor Budd is also overseas at the present time. And as a child growing up, I always thought going overseas was something that was out of reach of most people, but it's seemingly becoming more and more common every day. So the improvements in transportation of travel, technology, trade, with perhaps the exception of one country at the moment in the Northern Hemisphere, I won't mention that one, and also how those relationships are becoming more and more important. It's important that we are a city that is on the global stage, and by having strong sister city relationships with those 4 cities in those 4 countries helps us to do that. And in time, those relationships will bring us goodwill and also other elements that will be of advantage to our community. So the sister city relationships are important, hence the reason why we do value those relationships through delegations, and they do as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Impey. Any further comments, councillors? There being no further comments, I will make a comment. I was one of the delegates that went to went along with the General Manager to Gore for their 50th anniversary. It was a very exciting trip. We spent quite a bit of time listening to country music, but also talking to the Chamber of Commerce over there and talking about some business opportunities, as we do with sister cities. I think the way we were treated over there was absolutely magnificent. We were welcomed, we were looked after, we were accommodated, which made it a really affordable trip. And I think I just want to press that point. It was a very affordable sister city trip for our organisation, our community, to repay the respect that they need, especially when they come here on a reasonably regular basis, and they bring quite a few people to Tamworth for our country music. So certainly it was a great trip, and we listened to a lot of talent over there. I was quite blown away by some of the talent in New Zealand. And I don't know whether the General Manager wants to make a comment. No. Councillors, I support the report that Councillor Sharpen's put forward. I can only say that it was a magnificent trip, a good experience, but I think it was very good for our community to keep those connections going with our sister cities. And Councillor Impey, I think what you said probably nailed it. We need to keep those relationships active. From those relationships come many opportunities, some now, some later, but we need to keep those relationships very active. And I think that's a great thing that we can do from this council chamber. So, councillors, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour of adopting the report, say aye, raising their hands. Are you not raising your hand, Councillor Rodder? No. Those opposed? Councillor Rodder. So, that recorded, there was a division. Thank you. Councillors, we'll move on from there to open council reports, and we'll go straight to 7. And could I have a mover and a second, please? 7.1. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Brooke, second to Councillor Impey. Councillor Brooke, you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anyone wish to speak against that recommendation? Anyone wish to make comment on that recommendation? There being no further comments, I think I will make the comment and say it's very, it's a good name for that particular road. Very good name, very suitable. Councillors, there being no more comments, all those in favour of the report, please raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. We'll move straight from there to 7.2, and I'll call, and Councillor North is leaving the room. I'll call for a mover and a seconder, please. Could I have a mover and a seconder of that report, please? Move Councillor Impey, seconded Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Impey, do you want to speak to that report?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Well, we have heard from several members of our community tonight on this particular item, and it will be very interesting to hear what others around our community have to say over the next 28 days or during the 28-day consultation period. We're talking about free precincts because our city is growing. So it's actually a positive thing to talk about tonight. Just a couple of sort of comments, I guess. Interestingly, the Southern Gateway Activation Precinct doesn't seem to consider areas of south of Kingswood, only to the north, east and west. I guess it's a bit of a personal view of mine, but perhaps there might be some train of thought in the future to maybe consider Meadows Lane as another option to explore as an alternative to Bergman's Lane, if, for example, a ring road bypass or Western Freight Link isn't realised until beyond 2040, because by 2040 we may well have grown beyond Bergman's Lane, and of course a ring road within urban built-up areas might not be such a positive move by that stage. What ultimately happens to the land on the former athletics track is it's a vital area of land for many reasons. Some of that is, as you drive into our city from the south, it's what you first see. And there will be a stage in the future, if we do get it right, you'll be at a meeting somewhere and you'll say to people from Sydney or Melbourne or anywhere around the world, I'm from Tamworth. Oh yes, you're from Tamworth. You've got that beautiful space there at the south of your city there as you drive in on the left-hand side. We want to be known as a city that is, and a region that is thinking very much outside the square. So that area is an extremely pivotal part of our future growth. I would also add that the area in Katingal is no less important than the other two areas. We look forward to the growth of our region in that part of our Tamworth Regional Council area as well. Yes, so just a couple of points there, Mr Mayor.
Council, does anyone wish to speak against the report?
Sorry. Can I propose an amendment?
You need to stand, and if
sorry,
you want to
Mr.
move an amendment, move an amendment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment, or several, I think. I know we're in the infancy to the putting it out on public display, but I think it's quite incredibly important in the recommendations that point 3 consider that council recognises the strategic civic value of the former athletics track, includes in its considerations the options for the retention of the land by Tamworth Regional Council. That's the amendment.
Do you have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, just speaking on that then. Council should recognise the potential for future civic use, specifically as potentially a new site for a council building or chamber, should future demand arise. Retaining the site in council ownership could result in significant cost savings by removing the need for future land acquisition for such purposes, while preserving long-term planning flexibility for both the community and civic infrastructure needs. So well, my motion is that we...
Your amendment is?
Sorry, the amendment is that we can put in there that council considers it a strategic piece of land that we could use for our own purposes other than selling it off.
We have a seconder, so anyone wish to speak against that? Councillor Sutherland?
I'm just going to ask a question, and that is that my understanding is that looking through this structural plan, that parcel that Councillor Mears is referring to, the old athletics track, is already inherently positioned as a place of value and strategic value. being mentioned in the plan and having an indicative map and having the attention that it has, for me already talks about that parcel of land having that level of priority. Is that, am I misinterpreting that? Or can I get some clarity on how that block of land is currently received and positioned within that structural plan?
Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll answer on behalf of our strategic planning team who put these structure plans together. You're 100% right, Councillor Sutherland. The purpose of this is really to provide a framework for the community, provide all the comments, such as what Councillor Mears has just provided, so that they can all be considered when it comes back to council, rather than establishing a fixed position before you even take it on exhibition. That partly, in my mind, destroys the purpose of putting it on exhibition. Council has spent significant time and effort in recognising the benefit of that parcel to that entire precinct and the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been invested into that area, both through the ALEC, the sports dome, the hockey fields, the future aquatic centre, and so on. So all considerations that council will make regarding that land, and there has been no decision to sell it, and there have been considerations through an expression of interest process before, which has faltered at this point in time. No decision has been made about that land. The public consultation should put all of the options on the table for council to consider.
Councillors, I also think that the amendment actually misses the point here. We're going out for public exhibition. It's and as the General Manager has spoken to, this is about a lot bigger picture than what that particular block of ground is. It's about the whole precinct, along with the other two items in that report. I think what you're doing there is not giving the community the opportunity to come back and have their say, if they do want to have some say on what the structural plan will look like. Not what's going to be used, the land's going to be used for, it's about what the structural plan might look like for the future. So, councillors, I'll leave it at that and I'll ask for further comment. Councillor Rodder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I can understand the I guess the interests by Councillor Mears in that amendment, particularly in light of annexures where it shows that there are 5, and was mentioned in public consultation that there are 5 proposed, potentially proposed accommodation outlets on that site, and only one that potentially represents something that might resemble a piece of community infrastructure, that being the bespoke building shown as item 1 on the diagram I'm looking at. It was going to be the site for our visitor experience centre that we didn't glean any funding for, but I can understand Councillor Mears' concern when the structure plan that I see here, or the diagram I see here, indicates 5 accommodation outlets rather than any other possible options. And I wonder whether, if this is going to consultation, that should be removed and then we permit the residents of our local government area the opportunity to tell us what they feel should go there, instead of and I realise they've brainstormed this proposal, but this is going to go to consultation, and I think that the people of TRC might have different views to the people that were invited to speak and participate in that. And as the other speaker in public consultation said, that this is not for the next few years, this is for a long time. And this is why we have to get it right. And I understand Councillor Mears' concerns. I just did have a few questions too in relation to this. And I think the General Manager has already answered this, but I was just going to ask, given the comments in public consultation, has there been any ongoing discussions with developers over the old athletics field, given the 5 possible accommodation centres there? Also, flooding. It does mention flooding, which obviously needs to. I don't think flooding is going to be nearly as much of a concern to anything on that side of Gunnagunoo Road as it will be to the other side, particularly Barnes Gully and Scott Road and anything around that area. And then on the other side, Arcadia and subdivision are the impacts to Timbumburai Creek and anyone that lives adjacent to Timbumburai Creek, particularly even the bridge that traverses Timbumburai Creek out to Westdale. This is going to be an issue that I think we really need to be trying to address now, because the more buildings we add, the more we concentrate stormwater. And the people of Mullumbimby Close have shown me a few times now the impact of additional overland flows down that waterway adjacent their property and around Mullumbimby Close, and particularly an adjoining resident at the end of Mullumbimby Close has been greatly impacted by flooding there. Now, I appreciate that at another council meeting, you did indicate that some of that would be probably addressed with some cleaning up of that waterway and to try and make the waters flow a bit more expeditiously out of that area. But I think that it's important to probably get that right. And also those questions in relation to the concerns that Councillor Mears has, I would have a preference that we blank that out and we ask the residents what they want for that site, because it is a valuable piece of land, very close to many services in our city. Sorry, Mr. Mann, one final question. I was asked this in relation to the Kittingal plans. Is there any future plans potentially for a shared pathway between Moombi and Kittingal? Could that be incorporated in any plans for future subdivision work in Kittingal to basically join those communities together?
Thanks, Councillor Rodder. Before I'll ask Mr. Resch to answer that second question, but you've got to understand this is not about buildings on blocks or selling blocks or whatever. This is about a structural plan that might support potentially something going there into the future. There is nothing in that report that talks about what's going there. We're not talking about what's going there. We're talking about providing a structure plan that would allow development, whatever it might be, into the future on that whole parcel of land, which is not just that little bit. You take this bit out and you're taking that, all the work that's gone into that to provide a structure plan for that whole precinct. I think you're losing the point there. You've lost the point of what this structural plan's about. It's not about selling that piece of land. It's about providing a structural plan that will service that whole region, the hockey fields, all of that area right through. And I think the minute you start pulling bits and pieces out of it before it goes out for public consultation, you're going to make a mess of it. Mr. Resch, do you want to make a comment on that walkway?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'll need to refer that to Mr. McKenzie. I do believe we have planned for that shared path between Kittingal and Moombi, but Mr. McKenzie might confirm that for me.
Yes, absolutely. We had received funding previously, and we've completed the design for that shared path. So it's sitting there on the shelf ready to go for a submission somewhere down the track to get funding to build it. But it will probably be down the list of our priorities, but it's certainly been.
Thank you. And councillors, I'll just reaffirm what I said. I think if you start pulling bits and pieces out of this structural plan, which is servicing a much bigger area than the little block of ground you're talking about, you're going to disable the whole plan. And I think that would be doing the community a very big disservice. We're not talking about selling the land. We're not talking about building accommodation units out there. We're talking about designing a structural plan that will service a bigger area, the bigger picture stuff. And it's going out, this recommendation is to go out for community consultation, and the feedback we get from that community consultation will help us form a position for a formal plan into the future. Councillor Mears, I think you're probably not actually seeing what I'm seeing here. Yes.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Mayor? After hearing the conversation about this amendment, I just want to make a quick comment that I think that the word considers there in this potential amendment is doing a lot of heavy lifting. And my rationale for seconding that was that as this amendment reads, I'd see this as, well, at least I read this as just simply a consideration going into the public exhibition, that we're not necessarily drawing anything out, but they're simply just saying that as a council we'll also have to consider this viewpoint entering into public exhibition. So that's my read of the amendment anyway.
So councillors, you want to close that?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, as Councillor Brooke mentioned, it is to consider. It is a big body of work, and a very good, great body of work actually. But it's like giving people two options to have a look and comment on. If we give them an orange and an apple and that's all they can have, then they'll pick either an orange or an apple. But if we put the other option in there that council may wish to consider retaining that land for their own purposes, then that gives the residents an option to say, yeah, we think that's a better idea than potentially selling it, or we've got pictures of other developers' developments going on there as such, or ideas, but no idea that council may retain that. So that's where I think it should be more clarified, that when people go out to make public opinion, they can say that. I think one of the speakers earlier suggested other options for it as well, and he can certainly make those during the consultative period. But for the average person that's not overly engaged, if they're looking at what we've presented in the document, there's no mention of council retaining that land. And if we consider keeping it and or selling it, I can't see how that would affect the whole body of the work. It's a block of land. We either continue to retain that block for our own purposes or other purposes, as opposed to a specific development site. So that was my intent in this amendment.
Councillors, that debate's closed on the amendment, so I'm going to have to put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, raise their hand, please. Those opposed? Councillor Sharpen, I can't see Councillor Sharpen. He's hands up. Hands up, so it's 3-4. Amendment is lost.
How unusual.
We now go back to the motion. Any further comments on the motion as printed? Councillor Sullivan?
You go.
Councillor Mears, did you want to speak first?
Another amendment, but yeah, you go first.
Councillor Mears.
Oh, you go first. All right. Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just going through it again, there's been a lot of discussion, especially from some residents, and I do understand this is going out to public comment, so that's not the intent in this part. But I think Amendment 4, I guess, would be to extend that public exhibition period, to draft Tamworth Regional Structural Plans for a period up to including 42 days, to provide the community with sufficient time to review a very large body of work and respond to the plans, particularly in light of the previous consultation concerns raised. And inclusive of that, I'd like to see council undertake an additional community engagement activities during the
Councillor Mears, are you moving another amendment?
Yes, that's what I said.
Keep going.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've lost my place. They require the council to undertake additional community engagement activities during the exhibition period, including at least one community information centre to residents in or near the Southern Gateway Activity Precinct, and provide written notification to the landowners and residents within and adjacent to the affected precincts.
Do you have a seconder for that amendment?
Can we get it repeated?
Yep.
Sorry, just...
You're right.
Hey, can you...
Oh, look, I'll try and shorten it down now that to extend the period of consultation or public exhibition to 42 days instead of 28. It's an extremely large body of work, and a lot of people, including myself, spending a lot of time over it, have yet to fully digest it, and our residents may very well be the same. And we did hear last week that many residents are concerned that the initial consultation period wasn't adequate for them, or they weren't given sufficient notification. Those being people predominantly on Bergman's Lane that were adjacent to the development.
I just want the words for the amendment.
They don't have to yell.
No, sorry, I just need the word.
Okay, well.
What is the
Okay.
words for the amendment?
To extend the period of consultation to,
So dot point one changes from 28 days to 42 days.
yes,
That's part of the amendment.
yes.
And what's the last dot point? Can we just have the words for that?
Okay, that direct consultation with the affected residents on Bergman's Lane opposite the precinct be undertaken by council.
Do you have that written down?
I can
Will you
rewrite
provide
what I
it to the
had.
staff, please?
Yes, well, don't be so rude.
I'm not being rude, Councillor Mears. This is a
I
federal
know.
council meeting that has a meeting procedure. You should be providing the wording to the motion to the staff so that it can be on display to the councillors so they know what they're voting on and to the public. We need to be clear so that you get the motion up here that you would like to have moved as the amendment. The staff are not following the wording.
Okay, it's fine.
Can we provide the wording to the staff,
Yes.
please?
Okay. And while I'm still up, Mr Mayor, I'd like to apologise to the staff that are going through this, but I only got finished on my motions this afternoon and didn't have a chance to put them into the staff to assist with that. So excuse me for not being capable of doing my job.
Anyone wishing, so you've moved the amendment, you've got a second. Anyone wishing to speak against that amendment again?
I have a question, please, Mr Mayor, and that is just in regards to the second dot point of the amendments. From hearing from some of the community consultation tonight, spoke around how the consultation process was received pretty well across the 3 different precincts. Can I get a bit of a, just for yourself or staff to give an understanding of the level of consultation that's gone into it, because it seems pretty thorough in the plan, and also what consultation looks like throughout that public exhibition period as was planned prior to the amendment.
Councillor Sutherland, we did have a lot of consultation in leading up into this. There was a lot of conversation. We've heard about that tonight. We've had workshops on this, and those of us who went to the workshops, we did understand what was happening there. This is going out for, as normal, as it normally would go out, as a draft for public exhibition, and that's all we're asking for tonight. But look, that's...
Mr Spicer could comment on the level of
Yes.
consultation, please.
Mr Spicer, could you comment on public consultation, please? So far?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. What exactly is the question, if that's all right? So far. Yeah, okay. So, thank you, Mr Mayor. The consultation, the workshops were undertaken with landowners who had approached council over the last, up to about a decade, who are expressing an interest in developing their land at some future time. Those lands had been identified in strategic planning documents like Department of Planning, Regional Plan, Blueprint 100, and that kind of thing. So the consultation with them was that they came to us, we undertook workshops, and those landowners contributing 50% of the cost of undertaking the structure plans. In terms of the people regarding Bergman's Lane, they were not originally in it, but as a result of the workshop for that sports precinct, it was decided to extend it to Bergman's Lane and include that group, and they've been met with at least on one occasion, if not two. And of course, through consultation, happy to have meetings with them as a group or individually.
So, Mr. Spicer, you'd say there's been significant lead-up consultation already to the preparation of this report?
Oh yes, I think it's been really good. I'm proud of the team. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, any further comments on that amendment? Councillor Rodder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Rodder, if you push the...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have an issue with extending it to 42 days, and it mentions in the report in relation to community consultation, shows you who was targeted and the way it was targeted and done. But I do think now we're actually putting the draft out to public consultation, and given the importance of bits of land proposed for structure plans, I think that it actually is not unreasonable to request that from the from the council to have a bit longer period to comment.
Further comments, councillors? Councillor Impey.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, whether it's 28 days or 42 days, in the scheme of things, I think there is some wisdom in extending it to 42 days. It does give people a little bit more time to digest everything, but also creatively come up with other ideas that maybe haven't been born from thoughts yet. So on the surface, I think 42 days or 28 days may not make a whole lot of difference. Yeah.
Understanding there's been significant consultation with the people in these areas already, but any further comments, councillors? Do you want to close the debate, Councillor Mears?
Just comment, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I had a request. Can we split those two motions to be voted on individually?
You've moved an amendment, Councillor
Okay.
Mears. I think we've got to include, that's the amendment that's been moved and seconded. We need to look at that as one.
Okay. Can I amend this motion then before it's put to take dot point 2 out? With that, the specific consultation with residents?
If your seconder agrees.
Yep. And the only reason I put that in, as you will be well aware, there was significant discussion at a meeting we recently had with a resident that said that the consultation process wasn't effective, and it was on a Thursday or Friday of a long weekend. But I'm happy to remove that now and just...
So the seconder agrees to that?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor.
So now the amendment reads that approve public exhibition on the draft Tamworth Regional Structural Plans for 22 days and provide the community sufficient time to review and respond to the plans, particularly in light of the previous consultation concerns.
And dot point 2.
Sorry?
And dot point 2 of the original motion.
And dot point 2 of the original, receive subsequent report, dot point 2, receive a subsequent and future report to a council meeting to detail the outcomes of the public exhibition process with a recommendation as to potential adoption of the draft Tamworth Regional Structural Plan. Council, he's closed the debate.
Is that closed now, the amendment?
Pretty much. He's closed the debate. Sorry. So I'm going to put the amendment. Councillor Mears, if you can push your button. I'm going to put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, raise their hand. The amendment now becomes a motion. Councillors, I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the motion say aye, raising their hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on the business paper. In 9, Local Government New South Wales Conference.
Thank you.
9.1, sorry, we've got to get, we've got to get Councillor North back. Could I have a mover for 9.1, please? Councillor Brooke, seconded Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Brooke, you wish to speak to that?
Reserve the right, Mr Mayor.
Anyone wish to speak against the recommendation? And we then have to choose a couple of delegates, a couple of voting delegates to go. If anyone wishes to speak against that? There no speaking against. Could I have a couple of recommendations in terms of names of people or councillors that may be interested in attending? Councillor Brooke, you're one. Councillor Sharpens two. Councillor Sutherland. And we get three names to put forward. No other names. So we've got three names. We need to authorise two councillors to attend as voting delegates. So how are we going to work this? All you want to go as vote, Councillor Brooke?
I'll just make a statement if I can, Mr Mayor. I will put my hand up to be a voting delegate, but I also am aware that I have been a voting delegate at the previous year's state conference and the last annual conference a couple of weeks ago in Canberra. So I'll put my hand up, but I'll also, if we have more than the numbers that we need, I'll also retract that in favour of giving someone else a go.
So you'd withdraw, you'll go, you'd like to go, but you're happy for Councillor Sharpen and Councillor Sutherland to be voting delegates?
Yep.
Okay. We've got two councillors named that could be voting delegates. You would like your name down as an attendee though?
That's correct, yes.
So councillors, now we have a recommendation as printed. We've got voting delegates being Councillor Sharp and Councillor Sutherland, along with the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Ron Brooke as an attendee. Any further comments, councillors? There being no further comments, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour say aye. Raising your hands. Carried unanimously. Councillors, will now go to item 10, and I'll ask for a mover of 10.1. Move Councillor Brooke. Seconded Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Brooke, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd actually, for this motion, rather than moving the recommendation, I'd actually like to move a alternative motion, which...
You're moving a recommendation, Councillor Brooke. All you want to do, and I understand what you want to do, you're moving the recommendation as printed, but you want to change the number of 3,900 to something else.
Yes, that's correct, to 5,170. So
do we have that? Great. So you're moving the motion as printed, except it's a different figure in there now. Yep. Okay, can we go a seconder for that? Councillor Mears. Councillor Brooke, do you want to speak to that further?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm extremely supportive of this request. As one of the councillors who sits on the annual donations program committee, I just want to comment that this initiative by Tamworth Birdwatchers falls entirely into the sort of project that we are looking to financially support on that committee. This is a community group putting forward an effective solution to an identified problem and activating their own volunteers to make it happen. In doing so, they're creating business for another not-for-profit community group. It's a solution to an issue that can be transported around the entire region and has a myriad of benefits as an end outcome for protecting regional tourism in places renowned for bird watching like Barraba, to help protect our natural environment and native bird life by curbing the breeding of an environmental vandal. So I'm entirely supportive of allocating these reserve funds to such an extent that I have actually proposed that we allocate a total amount of 5,170, which from discussion with Tamworth Birdwatchers is a cumulative total for the trailer, the aviary construction and signage. I'm hoping all councillors have had a chance to read the email I shared earlier, but I've been able to identify that council actually has an additional $2,000 unallocated from the last round of the annual donations program, on top of the carried over amount of $3,945.75. This came about because one of our previously approved applicants later put in a request to alter what they would like to spend their donation on, which councillors on the committee denied because it was not keeping with a local initiative. Given that we have some additional funds to allocate and that this worthy initiative is $1,224.25 short of the amount they need, I think it would be appropriate for us to make up the difference and save this community group from having to fundraise for the remainder.
Anyone wish to speak against that recommendation? Further speakers for? Councillor Impey.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, this is a great example of community working together to solve a community challenge, hopefully. I do wish them well. It won't be an easy journey, but if anyone can do it, our Tamworth Birdwatchers group can do it. They've been around, I think, since 1998. So that's 27 years of experience, and they know a thing or two about birds. And working with the men's shed, I think is also an exceptionally good idea. Of course, the men's shed is full of people who come together with a common purpose. And as I said before, this is just a wonderful example of community working together with a special set of skills to solve a problem that, up until now is almost unsolvable.
Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those comments and just say, the power of community trying to impact on an issue that extends far beyond our region, with the impact of feral species and invasive species, is something we all have to tackle together. But also I want to take a moment to recognise the diligence of Councillor Ryan Brooke, as a diligent member of the Annual Donations Committee, to be able to identify the unspent funds that were identified to potentially be carried over to be allocated to this program. Again, it's a great use of community funds to fund community programs. I want to recognise Councillor Brooke for being able to make that happen to this extent. So thanks, mate.
Further comments, councillors? Councillor North.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I just want to lend my wholehearted support behind this initiative and congratulate the Birdwatchers group for leading this way and the men's shed as well. I think it's a great initiative, and just quickly also I'd like to commend Councillor Brooke on his coming up with that idea to cover that gap, which is great. I think whatever we can do to curtail invasive species, noxious weeds, feral animals, and we don't talk about, there's little mention about it, Indian myna being a feral animal, but it is, and it's invasive. It causes a lot of damage to our biosecurity, and it's important we get behind its initiative, so I'm really happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you. Further comments, councillors? There being no further comments, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Councillors, that brings us to the end of open council, and we now go to reports to be considered in closed council. But before we do, I'll ask the General Manager, did anyone ask for any of those items to be held in open council? Is there any one in the audience wishing any of those items in open council, in closed council to be held in open council? Councillor Rodder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 11.1.
Keep on forgetting that. Item 11.1, in relation to parking meters, I believe that this is a matter of public interest, given it's a bit contentious, and I'm sure that the businesses and residents of our local government area would like to know how much we're spending on meters for our CBD area. And I don't believe it unduly impacts Section 10.3 of the Local Government Act.
I'll ask the General.
Through Mr Mayor, the fact that the report contains a table that has all of the competing prices by the six tenderers, certainly council can make available to the public the final price that they pay for the successful tenderer, but it would be not appropriate for council to release the other figures.
That satisfy your question, Councillor Rodder?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillors, I'll now ask for a motion to move into closed council. Councillor Sutherland, seconded Councillor North. All those in favour say aye. Aye. We'll now move into closed council. Councillors, we'll ask the General Manager to report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this is the report of the closed session of the ordinary council meeting held on the 8th of July 2025. In closed council this evening, you considered 3 items of business. For each of those items of business, you adopted the recommendations as per the business paper.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to accept? Councillor Impey, seconded Councillor Sutherland. All those in favour say aye. Carried.